Is it possible that NASA and other government organizations are looking for ancient evidence of space travel and ET intervention? And if so, why?
If you look at NASA, basically it's infiltrated by three powerful secret societies, the Freemasons, the Nazis, and what I call the magicians, who are basically followers of Aleister Crowley out at JPL. And there's this real pattern of them being interested in stuff and naming spacecraft even after ancient Egyptian gods, like the Apollo 16 lunar module was named Orion. That is actually the Egyptian god Osiris. And they landed on the moon on Adolf Hitler's birthday at the exact time that Orion's belt was 33 degrees above the landing site. And all that stuff is not a coincidence. NASA definitely plans this, and it's all got to do with some sort of magical alignments that they think will make their missions be successful. NASA could very well be looking for the predecessors to the human race. You know, I still think that when Neil Armstrong said, when he first stepped on the moon, it's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, that he did not make a mistake. I mean, the conventional wisdom is he made a mistake and said he should have said, it's one small step for a man. But he didn't say that. And what he meant was, that's one small step for us, for man, for this current version of mankind, but it's a giant leap for the greater, broader human race, mankind, from whence we came. In other words, our ancestors that came to Earth before.
If this is true, where else in the world have researchers been able to dig up evidence of ancient space travel from a possible progenitor race?
There is in Central America, in Mexico, a Maya city with the name of Palenque. And in Palenque is one pyramid which has the name Temple of Inscription. And in 1952, Professor Dr. Rutz, he was the leading archaeologist at that time, he found inside the pyramid a secret stairway going down. They went down, the digging took 3 years, and they landed under the pyramid. And there they stand before a stone in the form of a triangle. They opened the door, and they were standing on a lid, so on a stone plate, a long, big stone plate, 3.8 meters long, 2.2 meters large, so a big block, one monolith. And there was a fantastic engraving. You see something like a frame, and inside of the frame, a man is sitting, bending forward, almost like a racing motorcyclist. He obviously has some oxygen mask on his nose, and you clearly see his two hands, he's manipulating some controls. The heel of his left foot is on a kind of pedal. He's sitting on a chair, and behind him, outside the frame, you see something like a linking flame, a fire. So that was absolutely fascinating. There is a human man in a technical machine. Now, of course, I know all the archaeological interpretations. Archaeologists say that this man represents Pakal, which is correct. Pakal was the second last ruler of that Maya city of Palenque. And in archaeology, they suggested it has nothing to do with space travel or with machinery. Pakal is simply sitting in the open mouth of a mythological monster, and he's falling into the earth. And out of his chest, you see the tree of life or something like this. That was the archaeological interpretation some 40 years ago. In the meantime, the two leading archaeologists, Stewart and Stewart, because it's the father and the son, in their newest book about Palenque, they say, yes, it is Pakal, the second last ruler of Palenque, but he's not falling into the mouth of a mythological monster. He's leaving the earth in a firing chariot. Everything which is on the stone plate has something to do with the universe and with the stars.
These are the working sheets for the dynasty that were done by Linda and Peter Matthews and Floyd Lounsbury during the first Mesa Redonda.
If this is evidence of ancient space travel, what other kind of earthly objects connect our human origins to the stars?
There are these obelisks, these Egyptian-style obelisks that are all over the world. They seem to be of great value to people that have a lot of esoteric power and knowledge. And you see them all over the world. You could even argue that Stonehenge is, in a sense, an obelisk or a monolith that's very similar to like the monolith that we saw in the film 2001: A Space Odyssey. But to me, the most fascinating connection on that is there is an object on Phobos that was made famous because Buzz Aldrin came out in an interview on C-SPAN in 2009 and said, there's a monolith on Phobos. The shape and the design seems to be to attract energy from above. In other words, to attract all the power is out there in the stars.
The ancient obelisk in the city of Heliopolis was the major spiritual center in all of ancient Egypt. Heliopolis, the city of the sun, and it was actually called the city Anu, named for the head of the Anunnaki gods. But Anu meant pillar to heaven. And we know that there were 48 huge obelisks at that point because these obelisks have been moved to major cities all over the world to harness that same energy. One of those obelisks is in the center of St. Peter's Square, which of course is not a square at all. It's a circle with the symbol of the Anunnaki, the cross with the X. The more we go through our discoveries of modern day archaeology, the GPS systems, the satellite systems, we're discovering hundreds all over the planet.
As you travel around the world in the same 33rd degree parallel, you'll find other monolithic type structures that appear to have been used not just for what's there now, temples, but actually when you lift up the temples and look underneath them, you find megalithic structures like Baalbek, the stones of Baalbek that have been raised up several hundred feet and put into place. According to ancient texts, it appears that those were actually landing places for spaceships. They used to take off, and if you're in a spaceship, you need something to push off on, and it appears to be that those stones could have been something for that.
Now this is at least 1,200 tons, and recent excavations show that there are possibly larger ones underneath it.
There are monoliths here on Earth, there are monoliths in film and television, and then there are monoliths on Mars. So to me, that's pretty amazing stuff, and there's just this connection coming where everything's starting to pull itself together.
If these structures are evidence of an ancient human or ET connection to the stars, is it possible that some of the ruins are actually remnants of an advanced space program here on Earth?
This is a never-ending story. South America, there is one geographical place which is called Puma Punku. And up there in Puma Punku, you find gigantic stone platforms, some of them weighing 800 tons on one block. And the locals said it was the gods who made it. Which gods? Were the gods who descended from the sky. And they made it in one single night. Later, the so-called gods disappeared. They took their equipment with them, of course. And now the natives come. And the natives, they look at this gigantic stone block, they touch it with their finger, and they say, it's the gods who made this. So the place became holy, a holy place. And now the natives start to construct a temple with their possibilities, with stone, one stone next to the other.
And it's good that they left this stuff in situ, because it lets us hopefully see what it looked like at Puma Punku when this dramatic event happened.
Through our research, we found remnants of what we might assume to be previous space stations or mission control centers on Earth. One of them would be Puma Punku. It's very clear that obviously, to me at least, and some of the researchers, appears to have been some type of a mission control center. It was built like a fort, very close to the pyramids of Chichen Itza. There's actual holes in the ground. They call them wells, where they used to supposedly sacrifice women or girls to make it rain, because when the rain didn't come, they thought that would please the gods. Actually, when you look at these, they're actual, what they appear to be, holes carved out in the ground from rocket ships. I'm not saying that's what they are, but if you look at the structure of the geology and you look at the way that they're formed, they actually appear to be holes in the ground from a rocket, like missile silos. Whether they were rockets that went to space or whether they were missile silos that launched rockets, we're not exactly sure, but they really appear to be something that used to house technology.